Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be jumping right into my powerful DLC build. This DLC build is going to be incredible. It's going to carry you through the game, I have no question about it. We have 3 different elemental damage types, physical damage, and bleed. These all have the exact same stats, by the way, which is really convenient to run into DLC, and I've narrowed it down from my original video to 5 different options. I'm going to show you locations on how to get everything to, and we're going to start here with big target damage. You could probably hear it in my voice. That's because as of the time of me recording this, we are only 5 days away from DLC. Shadow of the Erdtree is almost here, so be sure to beat Moog and Radon and be ready. This is a type of build that's going to carry you through with a ton of options, and the Envoy's Longhorn is great. Big targets in the DLC, no concern whatsoever. Is an enemy weak to holy damage? Well, that's right. They're going to take good bubble damage too. This is one I absolutely love. Let's jump into equipment. For equipment, we have the Envoy's Longhorn plus 10. I'm using the Erdtree seal. We have the Envoy crown on for the extra damage. Dragon Crest, Great Shield, Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Sacred Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords, Talisman, Holy Tear, Faith Tear. Let's jump into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, we have 70 Faith. By the way, don't worry about the quick equipment because I'm going to show you where to get everything that you need to grab. We have 30 Strength, of course. We have 40 when we're using the Strength tier, but here we're using the Faith tier because the bubbles scale with Faith. We're using Golden Vow and Halashaburi. Alright, now let's show you where to get everything. The first area, I have Ashen Capital here, but the first area you can grab the Envoy's Longhorn is by the East Capital Rampart Site of Grace, dropped by the medium Envoy enemies. And that's going to be a nice, easy grab for you if you have the capital unlocked. The other place you could do is the Erdtree Canopy. It's a little hard to farm them there. The Envoy's Crown, which boosts the damage by 15%, is also there. Well, where do you get the Sacred Scorpion Charm? A 12% boost to holy damage. You get that at the Smoldering Church. That's one you're definitely going to want to grab. Next up, I'm going to show you here is the Ritual Swords Talisman is at Lux Ruins. That's a really good one to have. And lastly here, I want to show you where to get the Holy Tear right there at the Minor Erdtree. Shard Quest is in the description. I will mention that throughout the video. Next up, we have our pure physical damage option, which is Lion's Claw. For this, obviously, we're going to be using the Strength tier, which is going to give us 40 Strength. Where we're two-handing this, we're going to have 60 Strength. And you can do a lot of damage with this one because Lion's Claw is incredibly reliable. If you've never used this build, use it now. I'm telling you, this build is going to crush it in DLC. This is going to be amazing, honestly. I cannot wait to run this in DLC because there's so many options, so much you can do with these exact 150 stats. It's incredible. This is from my Hallowed Inferno build, by the way, but of course we've narrowed it down to 5 options, and those are the 5 options I'm going to be bringing into DLC. Lion's Claw is one of those ones where, especially since poise damage is relative and a lot of bosses break with Lion's Claw, it's going to be epic to bring this in. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. For equipment, we have Guts, Greatsword, and Heavy Affinity with Lion's Claw. I'm using the Erdtree seal for buffs here. We hit 51 poise. That's the Great Helm, by the way. Arsenal Charm plus 1, Shard of Alexander, Green Turtle Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Green Burst Crystal tier, and Strength tier. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 25 Endurance. We have 40 Strength, 60 when we're two-handing it. Of course, we do have 60 Faith because we are Strength and Faith build. We're using Golden Vow and Halashaburi for our buffs. Blessings of the Erdtree if you want extra HP. And for this one, you get Guts Greatsword in a carriage not far from Rotview Balcony. As you head towards Dragon Barrow, you can grab Guts Greatsword. As far as the Ashavor Lion's Claw, that's at Fort Gale, however you say it. Next up here, the Green Turtle Talisman is at Summonwater Village. And the next thing that we're going to need here to make this awesome build is, of course, we're going to need the Stamina Regen tier. That's a good one to have. That's at this Minor Erdtree, by the way. That could be super helpful because this is stamina costly. And then if you want to, you could use the Ritual Swords Talisman 2, which is at Lux Ruins in the Altless Plateau. Forgot to show it, but the Arsenal Charm is easier to find than Greatjar's Arsenal. That is at Altless Tunnel. It's a tunnel that's below where the Erdtree is in Altless Plateau. I can't remember if it's specifically Altless Tunnel or Altless something, but that's where you find it. Next up here, we're going to show off our bleed option, and that's going to be Spinning Weapon with a Heavy Affinity Grave Scythe. That's right, we're not going to worry too much about Loretta here, although she did take me down a couple of times. I actually have difficulty with this fight from time to time because she spams a lot of magic, but as far as this ability here that we have, we can build up bleed so fast with Spinning Weapon and Blood Flame Blade with this build. The bleed build up, the physical damage is insane, and that's a great option to have as a Strength and Fate build. By the way, I want everyone to comment below what you're looking forward to most in DLC. I've asked this before, but it's right around the corner, so what's the most exciting part about DLC? Comment that below. Let's talk about this. By the way, the Discord has been incredibly active lately the past several days. That's going to be in the pinned comment, so be sure to join that too. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment stats, everything you need to know, and of course, we're going to show you the location of everything too. I also have an early game build for this one as well. I'll leave that in the description. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Grave Scythe and Heavy Affinity with Spinning Weapon. We're using any seal for buffs. We got the Great Helm Mount, of course. Ritual Sword, Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Rotwing Sword, Signia, or Millicent's Prosthesis. Either one's good. Thorny Tier and Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And we have the same stats here. Of course, we're using the Strength tier. By the way, I'm going to show you where to get the Strength and Faith tier towards the end of the video, as well as buffs. You'll have 60 Strength, two-handed, 60 Faith. We are using Golden Vow, Hellish Fury, and Blood Flame Blade. Let's jump into locations. All right, now for locations. You can farm the Grave Scythe not far from my favorite location to end my videos, and that's Lake Facing Cliffs. You can get the Spinning Weapon Ash of War. You can actually grab that at Stormville Castle from Rozier. I believe he also goes back to the Round Table Hold, and you can grab it from his bell bearing too. And as far as Rotwing, Millicent's Prosthesis, don't forget that and the Shard of Alexander. Those quests are in the description. Next up, I'm going to show you here is at Lendil, Capital of Ash, in the Subterranean Shunning Grounds. That's where you get Lord of Blood's Exaltation. I'll throw in my DLC prep video if you need an exact guide on how to grab that talisman. You can get it when it's a regular capital or Ashen capital, and at Lux Ruins, you can grab the Ritual Sword Talisman, which can act as a replacement for Millicent's Prosthesis or Rotwing Sword Insignia if you stay at full HP, and then for the Thorny tier, you get that at the Minor Erdtree and Consecrated Snowfield. And next up, we're going to show off our lightning damage option. That's going to be with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, which does massive lightning damage. You could add stuff into like Lightning Spear because it'll fit this build perfectly. We're using the Gravelstone Seal, the Jellyfish Shield, of course, and we can do a lot of damage with this build. And Placiducex or Placidusa or Placiusa or however you say his name, I still can't say it right after all this time. He takes massive damage from the lightning, of course, because he's a huge target and he goes down in just 2 hits, and we're only really using 2 buffs and the Jellyfish Shield. A lot of damage here, a lot of big target damage. Between this and the bubbles, you have a lot of options, holy options, lightning options. We got 3 elemental damage types. We got physical damage, we've got bleed, and of course, you're going to show off the Blasphemous Blade with the build like this too, so we're going to get that too. I'm going to show you what summon to use as well. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Gravelstone Seal and the Jellyfish Shield, the Great Helm. We have 51 Poise, of course, 55. Ritual Sword, Talisman, Godfrey Icon, Phlox Canvas, Talisman, Lightning Scorpion Charm, Lightning Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And the stats are the same. Well, you look at that, we just flipped the Faith and Strength tier, so we have 70 Faith now, good scaling on the Gravelstone Seal, and we only have 30 Strength because we don't really need that. We have 60 Vigor as usual, Golden Vow, Hellish Fury, and of course, Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Let's jump into locations. And for our locations here, first things first, you can get the book for Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike at Tempest Facing Balcony. It is behind that Site of Grace in the room by the... There's a whole bunch of enemies there that you're going to have to run past. At the Minor Erdtree here is where you get the Lightning tier. That's going to be incredibly useful. And then at Windham Catacombs, which is up here past Windham Ruins, you can grab the Lightning Scorpion Charm, a must-have for this build. And by the way, a lot of this stuff's in the same area. You can grab the Godfrey icon right here, which affects all of the strikes except the first one it will boost. And Lux Ruins, you can grab the Ritual Swords Talisman. That's incredibly helpful too for this build. And next up here, I'm going to show you where to find the Phlox Canvas Talisman. After Millicent's dead, you can kill Gowry. He will drop the Phlox Canvas Talisman. And then as far as the Jellyfish Shield, it's somewhere along this road. I can't remember if it's in this spot or the spot north of here. You'll find a bunch of jellyfish. And of course, the shield is right nearby and gives you a 20% boost. And then, of course, to go further here, I'm going to show you the Gravelstone Seal. I'm going to explain this one, by the way, because I have Ashen Capital. Once it's Ashen Capital, you cannot grab the Gravelstone Seal. It is too late by then. So you're going to go to the West Capital Rampart Site of Grace in the regular capital. You're going to drop off to the right side by where the alternate Round Table Hold is. There are 2 knights out there. The knight on the ground is the one that drops the seal. Oh no, is Matt really going to use a summon in this video? Yup, that's right, because all of us get stuck at some point. My first run through Elden Ring, I used a summon too because it was helpful, and I had to take the time to learn boss movesets. So I'm going to talk about the summon I chose here, which is Mimic, and how I set him up. This is the fire option, by the way, in the standard Blasphemous Blade build, and I'll show you where to grab everything for that, of course. As far as Mimic himself, you can get him in Nokron. You have to go pretty far below near Night's Sacred Ground, Site of Grace. And, by the way, for Mimic, what we're going to use here is we're going to end up using the Blasphemous Blade, of course, so he can heal himself, because Mimic will be able to heal with Taker's Flames too. But more important to that is you're going to use Blessings of the Erdtree, which you can grab at the capital, by the way, when it's Ashen Capital. I believe it's before the Throne Room. And when you use that on him, he's going to continuously heal between that and the Blasphemous Blade. I've also given him, of course, Dragon Crest too. I'm using Dragon Crest so he has some defense. This is New Game Plus 7, so of course Mimic's not going to make it through the whole Millennium fight, as she has close to 50,000 HP and does massive damage on every single hit. Yeah, he doesn't really do so well in New Game Plus 7. None of the summons really do on max scaling, so there is some difficulty there. I do want to mention, by the way, I'm going to be going into the DLC for my first run on New Game to learn everything. I want to mention that in the spirit of transparency, because much like the original game, I find that experience would probably be best. Yeah, after that, my second run will probably be on New Game Plus 7. It's probably going to go right from New Game to New Game Plus 7, but I feel like I'd be shortchanging myself, especially as a content creator, if I was going in on max scaling, running into some brick walls and whatnot. I'm going to, of course, try to solo stuff and whatnot. If I have to use a summon, I will, but I think base New Game is a good starting point for me. And of course, these are the stats and the weapons I'm going to be taking into the DLC too. And I am very confident this is going to work. You have so much at your disposal. Even knowing that there's going to be a power-up system and whatnot, you have 3 different damage types as far as elemental goes: physical damage and bleed too. Basically, the only thing we don't have here at our disposal is magic damage, and I am perfectly fine with that because we have everything else, and that's a lot to have in one build at rune level 150. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And for equipment, we have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10. We have the Erdtree Seal plus 10. Great Helm, part of the Knight's Cavalry set. Dragon Crest, Great Shield, Talisman. Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords, Talisman, Flame Tier, Faith Tier, and then we're using Mimic Tier Ashes too. Let's jump into stats. And of course, our stats are going to be the same here. We're going to lean more towards Faith. My tier actually ran out by now because it only lasts 3 minutes, but I'd have about 70 Faith, so good damage on the Blasphemous Blades. Ash, we have 30 Strength, 60 Vigor, same stats. Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blessings of the Erdtree. Do not give Mimic Howl. He'll take increased damage, and he continuously uses it over and over again. It's crazy. It literally... Anyway, at the Blasphemous Blade, you can find it at Volcano Manor. You have to defeat Rykard. You get it from his remembrance. Yeah, so you have to defeat Rykard. Use the Serpent Hunter for that. At Fort Lade or Fort Lad, or however you say it here, you can grab the Fire Scorpion Charm. That's important for this build, of course, because it's going to boost fire damage. Next up here, we're going to show, once again, you can grab the Ritual Swords Talisman at Lux Ruins. You're going to be at full HP a lot with the Blasphemous Blade, so that's a must-have too. And next up, I'm going to show you, of course, where to continue to grab stuff for this build. And the Flame Tier is going to be at this Minor Erdtree in Caelid. You can grab this one relatively early, by the way. That tree avatar is not too tough. And as far as the buff locations, Flame Grant Me Strength's right here at Fort Jail or Fort Gale. And then the next thing here is we're going to show you where to get Howlish Shibiri. Keep in mind that doesn't stack with Flame Grant Me Strength. You can get that at the Frenzy Flaming Tower in Liurnia of the Lakes. Next up here, Golden Vow outside Volcano Manor. If you go to the right, there's going to be a pathway down past the Erdtree. You're going to jump down, get invaded by Anastasia again. And that's going to be right at the shack nearby past the Minor Erdtree there, and you can grab it. It's the Golden Vow incantation. Now for the Faith and Strength tier, from the Castle of Morn Rampart site of Grace, you're going to head over this bridge. It's under it, I believe, somewhere around some of the plants down there. You can grab the Faith tier. And for the Strength tier, it's by Stormhill Shack. You go up here, I believe there's a troll nearby, and you can grab the Strength tier really early. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to put a lot of energy into this one. I felt a little better this week. For those that don't know, I do have some stuff I deal with as far as my health and stuff goes, so my energy kind of fluctuates. Be sure to sub, by the way. Do not want to miss out on this channel's content. I am very confident this build is going to be amazing for DLC. This is one you can take no doubt in with confidence, and you have so much at your disposal. Grab these items, get this build ready. DLC is almost here.